Ooh, I have that thing up over in front of our faces. You'd think I learned better. Nah, you wouldn't. Good
Nah.
afternoon, and welcome to the Practical Prayer Podcast on New Thought Media Network. So, some of the other hosts, they open their program and they're so effusive and exciting, and it's just like we used to do at 6 o'clock in the morning on the radio morning show. You're listening to the morning show, and I'm over it. I'm over it. So it's very exciting to be here. It's Monday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on the East Coast and earlier elsewhere. So here we are for the Practical Prayer Podcast pre-show. So we get to talk about what we're going to talk about. And you folks who are on the New Thought Media Network audience can ask us questions through the chat in the comments if you wish to. Or you can go to bethelight.com, be-the-light.com, which I will actually put on the, there. It shows up just like that. Go to bethelight.com, and there's a little link where you can put in a comment or a question or a prayer request or whatever manner of communication you wish to have with us, and then we'll take it from there.
You finished?
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. So let me just say, I'm excited about being here.
This is fun.
You had a lot. Yours was a lot. Mine is just a little bit. I'm excited to be here. And a Facebook user said, "Hi, everyone." So, hi back.
I'm preparing for the Parliament of World Religions, which is coming up in Chicago in a couple of weeks.
Are you excited about that?
I am. I'm getting more and more excited as the time approaches. I just found out last week that New Thought is going to be the second most largely represented denomination at the Congress. And they're expecting like 10,000 people there.
That's okay. Yeah, that's kind
That's
of
a
a
lot.
surprise. Yeah, because New Thought hasn't been a member of that for a real long time.
Oh, yeah,
Right?
we just got invited in the last 10 or 12 years.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was even that long, but that's a lot of growth in such a short period of time. You know, do you do you know how long it takes
Um,
to? Yeah, you were freezing a little bit, so I don't know if you responded to me at all.
no, I didn't.
Okay.
I just was watching my little time waster wheel go on my screen. I hope that doesn't happen too often during the broadcast.
I don't let that
But
happen because then I won't know if you're here.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's the last day of July. Why would we be freezing? It's delightful.
Cute.
Yeah.
But
So,
I do want to make sure I emphasize how impressive that amount of growth is in an organization um, in just 10 years.
yeah, and remarkably how well the New Thought organizations are pulling it together, because we do have a tendency to be fiercely independent, and people who come up through one of them, who come up through the Centers for Spiritual Living or through Unity, think that they're really special, and the other New Thought teachings, like divine science, they're just weirdos who don't get it. So it's a very much an us versus them thing. And then as soon as you learn about the second one of them, you realize, oh, we're all exactly the same, and we are so different from all the other religions and spiritual practices.
It's it's just amazing, and I felt that when I first started investigating or testing the waters in the different I call them denominations or divisions, and so
Denominations is as good as anything.
yeah, so I kind of picked up some of that, and I thought, come on, I kind of know a huge denomination that does like that, or kind of behaves itself in that way. But the good thing is, you said that that's like dissolving and righting itself. So
Yeah, well, and the
that's
downside of having denominations is that it sounds to people on the outside like that's an organized religion. The Protestants have denominations, and the thought of calling New Thought organized in that sense is really aspirational. We are not nearly that well organized.
and
These are words being spoken by a member of the executive board of the International New Thought Alliance and the administrator of the affiliated New Thought Network. So I know a couple of things about this, and compared to, let's say, the Vatican, we're not that well organized.
and the question is, do you want to be?
No.
Yeah.
No.
See it.
So we can use the term denominations. The really fun thing about the Congress this year, there are a couple of really fun things about the Congress this year, but one of my favorites is that this is the first time that all of the different New Thought organizations are going together and doing one thing together. Because we've gone before and we've been representing New Thought, but there was Agape over here, and there was Divine Science over there, and there's Universal Foundation for Better Living over there, and everybody's kind of doing their own thing. And this time, all the groups got together, and everybody got a booth on the exhibit floor, and then we asked the people who are running the parliament to take down the pipe and drape between us all, so we've got this one really huge open area that we're all going to kind of be hanging out in.
Amazing.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah. I could give you some story or have a conversation with you about some parallel denominations and so forth. But, but I think it's a wonderful thing that's happening with New Thought in that way. Because the more you understand how we are one, just period, when it doesn't even have anything to do with our belief and faith and all of that business, it's just incredible, to see what is possible and what's real when the lines are dissolved. And so organization, I'm a organization person, that's just how I was groomed, I guess. But it ain't that great, when it's not.
It's hierarchy and paperwork and bureaucracy.
Because
sometimes it's helpful to have people with some resource there, but sometimes having to jump through the hoops is really not nearly as much fun as it's worth.
Yeah, that that's a good conversation for some other venue, for me. But you have to have some kind of organization, but you have to have a balance in how far do you go before you're stepping over the line where it interferes with my relationship with you and other people. Then there's the ego thing that comes in. Oh, it's just crazy.
Yep.
But
I particularly like the slogan, the saying, the core commitment of the Emerson Theological Institute, the alma mater we share, which is consciousness is the sole authority.
Yes.
And it's as long as you remember that and you act as if that's true, then everything else kind of falls into place in a very harmonious manner.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got a podcast episode to record, which we will do shortly, and it has nothing to do with the Parliament of World Religions, because you came up with something different that you want to talk about, and I think that's just fine. So let us go ahead and begin the Practical Prayer Podcast.
Good.
A practical prayer is a prayer that works.
These discussions between Reverend Bill Marchiony and Carol Lawrence dive into the details of how it works and how to work it.
Reverend Bill is a New Thought minister and the author of Practical Prayer for Real Results.
Your new life begins with a new thought.
Carol Lawrence is on a spiritual quest, finding the New Thought teaching after decades on the pulpit in 3 different traditional denominations.
I've got some questions.
Together, they're exploring the philosophy and activities that come together from many of the world's religions to create the practical spirituality that is New Thought.
Welcome to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony, and I'm excited.
You are excited. And as we discussed very briefly before the podcast recording began, you have a question that you would like to address. And my bet was that I would be able to answer the question in far fewer words than it takes you to ask it. So, and of course, leave enough openings that we still have the rest of a half an hour to talk about.
Okay, now I'm challenged to just try to condense it down if I can. Okay, so here's my first attempt. Can't even get it started. Okay, so what is meditation? How is it different from prayer? what can you expect from it, or what is the expectation of meditation? Do I need both? So that's a lot.
Okay, that's a
So,
lot. And
yeah.
here's my one sentence answer that we will then dive into some more. Prayer is when you talk to God, and meditation is when you listen.
Mm-hmm.
And to have a conversation or a dialogue, both are required.
That sums that up, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, and it's really important. And I'll throw some extra words in there because we can't oversimplify it. To get back to the core of the New Thought teaching, we believe there's one power, love, intelligence, force, that creative source that creates everything. And what it does is it doesn't sit outside there and like have this little laboratory, and we're in the laboratory, and it's up, underneath the exhaust hood. It does the creating by sharing itself as its creation. So everything that exists everywhere is that one infinite presence expressed in its own way. So we don't have to look outside of us for God. When we turn our eyes to the infinite, we can close them and go within, because that divine presence is abiding within. And not just within us, is within everything. Everything is the divine taking its own form. And so if I want to attune myself to what is in that infinite mind beyond my awareness, then I can turn away from my senses and from my education and from all of the assumptions that I've ever made, and let my mind get still and listen to what the infinite is actually able to say to me through intuition or guidance or suggestion or creativity of an aha moment, a sudden realization. We've all had them, and we have all been trained for the most part to disregard them. We were really good at it when we were little. We were really good at it when we were little. So meditation is being able to shut out the mind chatter and listen to that infinite intelligence, that still small voice. And prayer is when we are going to be creative, where we're going to understand exactly what it is that we want to experience next. Not necessarily I want tab A to fit into slot B, because we don't have necessarily that level of control, but I wish to have this experience of harmony in my relationship, or prosperity in my lifestyle, or some manner of good unfolding, health for a family member. When we are really clear about the experience that we want to be having for ourselves or for those around us, we go into prayer and we acknowledge that infinite creative power that creates everything, that created us, is active in us now. And then what we do, and that's the whole nature of practical prayer, is to be able to set that same creative law in motion, because we are active participants in it. So the talking is speaking with the authority of the infinite, and listening is allowing that infinite intelligence to inform us, which is much bigger than the original answer sounded.
Yeah. Okay, so let's keep it separate for a minute. I mean,
Okay.
well, they are separate. But the prayer part that you explained sounds a bit general, because of you said we don't have that level of power or whatever to make the details we ask for, harmony and so forth. So in the prayer space, then, do we not be specific about, if we want harmony, we may have in our mind what needs to happen for us to experience harmony.
Yeah. And we may be wrong.
Yes, yes. So how do you know what to pray for?
What we do is we have an idea of, and this is my favorite part of this is the pivot. We have an idea of what it is that we don't want. There's something that's been going on that's been annoying, and we want something else. And rather than going with a direct attack on, I'm going to make that thing go away, we broaden out our awareness to what's the experience of life that I want to be having once this situation has changed. So I'll give you an example. I live in this area that was developed and about 60, 70 years ago, and the Municipal Shade Tree Commission planted honey locust trees. They're very pretty. They're gorgeous. They're big. They have a wonderful canopy of leaves. This time of year, they're absolutely gorgeous. and they drop more crap on the lawn than you can possibly imagine. And the roots just like growing into people's basements, and they grow sometimes along the surface, and then there's these honey locust trees popping up everywhere on the lawn, and they drop stuff, little pine needle sorts of things in the springtime, and then there's little tiny leaves in the fall, and these hideous looking seed pods that come down all year long for different reasons. And every house on my street has one in the front yard, along with a tag from the township with a number, because we're not allowed to do anything to them. If they need to be trimmed, the township's going to trim them. If we want to take them out, we're not allowed to take them out because they're part of the community plan. And I really am not a fan of having a honey locust tree in my front yard, but I'm dealing with it. My neighbor Judy really, really didn't like having that tree. She just, every time she had a chance, she would complain about how awful the tree was. 5 or 6 years ago, tree got hit by lightning. Township came right over and cut it down and took it away.
Her tree, right?
Her tree, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, and she doesn't really do prayer, but she was so clear about the experience she wanted to have. She was not going to call in a lightning strike. She had no idea that she could do that. And she knew that she wasn't going to be able to call a tree trimmer in to cut the thing down. But she was looking at this tree and knowing something better. She was knowing something different in her experience. And the lightning strike came and took out her tree.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. So
now, there are other gentler versions of that story. The one is the person who's working in an office and the boss is dysfunctional and everybody in the department is tense and on edge, and they're on the verge of quitting, but they can't because they feel that they're hemmed in and there's no possibilities for them, and it's just a completely oppressive environment. And then somebody in the group gets the idea of the experience. You'd love to just smite the boss, have the earth open and swallow him or her, and then close up again. That doesn't happen.
no.
So the intention was, I want to have a harmonious and uplifting and mutually supportive work environment where everybody is succeeding. And the boss gets promoted and gets put in charge of another bigger department that's so dysfunctional that the boss actually brings some order out of the chaos that's there. And the person who was setting the intention gets promoted and is now managing this group and knows exactly what to do. And it becomes the most peaceful, harmonious workplace anybody can imagine, and nobody had to get hit by lightning.
Okay. So I mean, that's a completely great story.
And I've seen that story happen on multiple occasions.
So we'd love to get to this wonderful outcome. In the middle, there's a whole there's dynamics going on. It's just whole layers thick of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What's the prayer again now? What does the person pray for?
And I'm going to take a step back into the experience that we're having, because this is one of the things that makes the prayer challenging. The experience that I'm having is my boss is a jerk. Mm-hmm. Okay, and it's making everything in my office horrible, and it's all the boss's fault. And I want the boss to go away. Mm-hmm. And we're having these negative feelings about the boss, and it's all about putting the power and the energy and the focus on the boss. And the pivot is, okay, take the situation that we're in now with this oppressive, micromanaged, unpleasant work environment. What's the experience I want to have instead? So we turn away from the darkness, we turn towards the light, and we say, the experience that I want to be having is a smooth and peaceful and mutually respectful and very effective, successful department where everybody has the opportunity to share their gifts and do their work and take part in this peace and success. And there's nobody getting smited. There's nobody getting crushed underneath an iron heel of anything there. Mm-hmm. There's just the invitation for the experience to somehow mysteriously get better. And when that's what we're inviting, one of the possibilities is that the boss is going to get promoted. There's lots of other possibilities.
So then in the intention of the prayer is or the desire. It's what you want, the desired outcome.
Right.
But you don't dictate or worry about how that happens.
Right. When we say how it's going to happen, we are limiting the potential that the infinite has into our preconceived notions of what's possible. And in an infinite universe, when we narrow it down, well, I can think of 3 ways that this can happen. And that might be somebody who's got a lot of imagination. It might be just one way they think it can happen. The boss has to get brought up on charges and fired, or arrested, or some other way, kidnapped while he's on vacation. And those things tend to be mean and violent, and about that same power differential that caused the problem. As soon as we let go of that and say, I don't care how it happens. How is not my business. It's up to God. And open ourselves up to that possibility that this is the experience I want to have, and I don't care how it comes about. And that's none of my business. It's above my pay grade. But I know that this goodness is happening. Then there's a lot of elbow room for that infinite creative power to do something that is completely beyond what we thought was possible.
Okay.
Because we think it's local. We think that it's something that I have to do, or that Susie has to do, or that we're going to gang up together and do. And it's a much bigger universe than that. There could be somebody sitting in the boardroom saying, who are we going to get to run our completely dysfunctional outside sales team? I know, Joey. The inside sales team is just going to have to do without him.
And then everybody's happy. No, but that makes a lot of sense. And the real piece in there, I think, to pay attention to is what we want, the desired outcome, but letting go of how that could work out.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this with huge amount of experience because I'm a former control freak.
You very much like doing how.
Yeah, because I didn't know anything else. I just didn't, but it's the only life I knew. But then I'll tell you, I didn't let it go. I didn't let it
we
go
never do.
because I was supposed to, or because you explained a lot of reasons why I should. A glimpse of a glimpse of God will make you back up. Because for me, I'm thinking, for instance, my thing is the ocean. And, I go there and it helps me to, kind of just locate myself. Like, listen, you're all that, but not all that. Right? So yesterday when we were driving home, we could see part of the ocean, and I just get so filled when I look at it. But now it's starting to hit me when I see it. This isn't a whole lot, because compared to the universe, this is like a drop. Yeah. And that's a crazy feeling. So when you really think of the ocean as an analogy for God, it's like, okay, you can just let this go, and it won't be a problem if you just let it go. It's going to be okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a neurally magical phrase that we can use. I'm going to ask you to repeat it before we go into a break. God knows how this is going to work.
Yeah, God knows how it's going to work.
And God does. Are you ready to get results? Now, that's not a rhetorical question. Are you ready to get results? RUR2GR. That's actually the abbreviation for the steps in a practical prayer. Recognition, unification, realization, gratitude, and release, with a couple of extra steps in there in case some doubt creeps in along the way. RUR2GR. This class is about the prayer technique that's common to all of the spiritual practices and religions in the most effective prayers that they have. And by effective, I mean that the prayer works. It actually creates a change in the experience of the person doing the prayer. It gets a result. We're going to begin with theory, and then we're going to take it into practice. By the end of the class, you will have your very own practical prayer that will help create transformation in your life.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony, and that was great.
And we're talking about meditation and prayer, and God knows how that's going to work out. And I want to do a quick shout out to Kate, who listens to us in Buffalo, New York. She was one of the original members of my teen group, and I heard that she sometimes listens to this. And as a typical member of my teen group, she will either be tickled or mortified that I'm mentioning her.
Be tickled. She'll be tickled.
Be tickled.
Yeah.
So God knows how this is going to work out. And to me, it sounds like a statement of exasperation. God knows how this is going to work out. But that's true. I don't need to. If God knows how this is going to work out, then all I have to do is say, this is what's working out. And the details belong to some outside force. And that lets me surrender.
It's a relief. You know, it's a relief, I think. At least for me.
You and I are both really good at figuring out how the pieces are going to fit together and how to take this 10 pounds of whatever it is and mold it into that sculpture or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
And it's really good to be able to do that. And sometimes it works against us because sometimes there's something a little bit more that's going to be required to get the job done. And then we face struggle. Because, all right, I get it 90% of the way there, but then God knows how the next 10% is going to happen. And what I generally find after I've gone through some struggle is, I could have turned it over to the infinite before I started struggling. Got the idea and say, well, this one's going to be complicated, so I'm just going to allow the infinite to tell me what to do next, and then I'll do that.
Well, you know what? I'm going to be your cheerleader because I'm right there with you. I'm going to be, but you don't know what point the struggle is going to be. It's you get there but the good thing is to be able, and maybe this is experience or living in the New Thought idea for philosophy for a long time, you can say, when I start feeling the struggle, you can be sensitive to, you going in, I'm going to do the best I can for this situation, but when it becomes, a struggle, or for me, I'll say, because I don't like unpleasantness. I don't.
I'm sorry. Anybody who wants to raise their hand because they like unpleasantness?
No, but some people...
kind of the nature of unpleasantness is that it's unpleasant.
You don't know some of the people that I have known over 35 years. No.
There are some who are gluttons for punishment.
Yeah. But if it becomes uncomfortable, I had to learn that now. I didn't when I met you, I didn't know that. I would just keep plugging, because I'm supposed to be able to get this done. But now I'm just like, okay, wait a minute. This feels very unpleasant. I know God can handle this. Right? I think I always have a part to do. I never stand back as though I don't have a part to do because, I'd feel like a bum. I don't want to feel like a bum. But stepping back is something you have to learn how to do too. So it's just like a lot of energetic moving parts in becoming.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. There's a lot that's going on, and God knows how this is going to work out, because when we're able to let go of our need to control it, then if I can figure out, if I have I think we've done this before, if I have 1,000-pound boulder and I want to move it a mile, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do that, then, I'm going to think about the levers, and I'm going to think about trucks and locomotives and all sorts of things. And there are actually a couple of really simple answers. The simplest one is to put it a mile up on a cliff and just push it off. And it's going to make that mile all on its own with no further intervention. Or, if I have it in Minneapolis, I can put it on a barge and then just go down to New Orleans and wait. It's much more than a mile. So, and when I first say, moving 1,000-pound boulder a mile, it's like, that just seems like a lot. It seems like a lot of work. And for us, it is. Mm-hmm. But there's other possibilities. And when we let go of the limitations that we imposed on it and open up to the other possibilities, all sorts of simple stuff comes along.
it's, and you say let go. Like I said, that's a whole nother lesson. Workshop. All I can make a workshop out of anything, but it really is, because it's letting go before you go nuts. And I think, like, okay, Spirit, what are you gonna do with this? Because this is a mess. I sure hope you got a plan.
Yep.
Not just-
Yep. And the magic is in the pivot. The magic is when we go from looking at the problem to opening to the new possibility. And in the pivot, there's a huge letting go of our assumptions. Because I'm looking at something and I can describe exactly what's wrong with it. The size and shape and color and texture and nature and the precise weight and the speed and direction, velocity, humidity, all of that. I can catalog everything that is wrong with the situation. But when I get to the pivot, it's like, okay, once this annoying thing is gone, then what? Because it's not just going to leave an empty space. There's going to be something that happens instead. Am I just going to feel peace of mind because it's gone? Or am I going to then have the opportunity to do something different? If there's somebody who's really annoying in my life and they stop annoying me in my life, am I just going to have empty time, or am I going to do something else? So, and it's by setting our sights on that next newness that we are then able to let go of the specifics of how this thing is going to transform into something new, and then let the infinite create something even greater than we had expected or anticipated.
Interesting you raised that example, because that next newness, to me, it's like faith. I do not like the current situation, for example, and I can't figure out how to change it. But I do know when it's changed, I'm going to be happy.
Yeah.
I have enough faith to know that there's going to be something there, and it'll be cool. It'll be not, it won't be this. I'll tell you that. It's not whatever this might be. So then the element of faith comes in a bit, and yeah, because all things work together for good, and I'm stuck on that because if I work it out, I have made plenty of messes now. Okay, so if if I let it go to Spirit, it's surely going to be better than the chances. The chances of what I'm doing,
Yeah. Faith has been described as belief in things unseen. And it's really easy to believe in stuff that we see, or stuff that we've been told has happened to other people. But to be able to look a situation in the face and know that there's something better that's available, even if we don't know exactly what it is, but just that understanding that there is something better. What does better feel like to me? What does better look like to me when it's better? What am I doing? How am I dressed? Who am I hanging out with? What's the air temperature? Just to be able to identify with that newness that's coming along with the change in the experience. Okay, so whether it's the boss changing, or my favorite one is the doctors apologetically scratching their heads saying we have no idea how we could have gotten that diagnosis so wrong, but there's no evidence of X, Y, or Z disease. And I've seen that happen a bunch of times, and it's my ego just has fun with those. But it's wonderful to watch because it is a transformation in the life of the person who had the original diagnosis. And to me, it takes the ego level of the medical professionals who thought they knew everything down a notch as well. So that's a win all the way around, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's one we have to go with at some point. But again, it's faith in what I don't know. But everything is known. I think everything is available to know.
Oh, yeah.
And if I don't know it right now, if it's not in my understanding right now, I'm still cool with it, because it's going to happen. Like, God knows better than I do. Or, and I don't mean like God out there somewhere. I think some describe it as a higher self or whatever. Whatever you say or think about God, God knows it better.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can, I can be okay with that. I think it has to do with like listing your 10 core beliefs. And I don't know how many numbers you got, right? But for me, right in there is all things work together for good.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's going to happen, I'm leaning on that, because if it's not good, I'm coming for an explanation.
Yeah, and sometimes in the middle of the experience, it's clearly not good. There's clearly some sort of a disruption or an upset that's going on, a clearing, a cleansing, or a reset. Sometimes I describe that as the second act. First act, we meet all the characters. The second act, the tragedy comes along. The villains show up. Darth Vader is going to blow up the rebel base. Pick your hero story, and then in the third act, the heroes manage to overcome the dark forces, and are able to prevail. And the lead characters fall in love, and everybody gets their rich rewards, and there's much smiling and jubilation. And you can't have the third act without the second act. So there's a constant cycle of creation and destruction and creation and destruction. And, it's the phoenix from the ashes. Rising from the ashes, that's pretty cool. Bursting into flames doesn't feel that comfortable. I can't imagine saying, what do I want to do today? Burst into flames? It's just not the sort of thing that would occur to you. However, in order to have that rebirth from the ashes, that's part of the program.
Yeah. Now, you very well know that that's complicated for me. Like, I get it. And I'm in the midst of the crap that's going on. I don't know that I can personally think that organized, that rationally. So I just say, listen, this is going to work out for good. Mm-hmm. This right here is really, I can't say the word I would love to say, but it's so descriptive, right? I can't even tell you the letter that it starts with, but you can imagine, right? This right here is, but I know it's going to work together for good. So number one, I got to take a deep breath and just get through it, because everything changes. Nothing stays the same.
Yep.
The way you described it is much more eloquent. It's nicer, Yeah. I wish I could think that way when I'm in the hole.
Yeah.
I know I'm getting out of it. I don't know how I'm getting out of it, but all things work together for good. So this right here must be working out for my good. And I have 1,000 examples, as do you.
Yeah. And then the more we pay attention, the more examples we have. And there's some examples where people, you have to point out to them the miracle that just happened, because they just skipped over it. They were struggling, and then finally they overcame. It's like there was so much more going on than just you trying to push buttons down there on the ground. But that's all they're paying attention to, so they don't notice. Let us take a break, and when we resume, we'll do a prayer on meditation and prayer, and we will also focus our attention on looking a fact in the face and knowing something better.
Learn to put practical prayer to work in your life. The steps are simple to learn and let you begin to get real results to create the life of your dreams immediately. Reverend Bill Marchiony's widely acclaimed book, Practical Prayer for Real Results, gives you a clear summary of the New Thought principles behind practical prayer and the series of easy-to-understand steps found in the most effective prayers from religions and spiritual practices all over the world and throughout history. Practical prayer is not a replacement for your religion or practice. It's a technique to make the work you do in consciousness even more effective. The book includes 40 prayers on various topics that you can adapt as needed and use as your own. Practical Prayer for Real Results is available in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook on Amazon or at b-the-light.com. That's b-the-light.com.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony. This discussion has been amazing.
Yeah, we started out on meditation versus prayer, and then discussed how they're very similar to each other, two different sides of the same coin. And then we've been talking about how we can take a situation that is not to our liking and pivot. When we're training practitioners, we teach them to look a fact in the face and know something better. And the fact is what's showing up in our awareness. I'm looking at a situation, and this is not to my liking. This is not serving my interests or the interests of the other people who are here. And I can know something better, and that's the pivot. That's being able to turn away from that and assuming that there is some permanence to whatever it is I'm looking at, and know that there's something better. And the pivot is to be able to open to whatever that newness is. And it's not necessarily that, okay, at the end of this prayer, somehow somebody's going to drive up with a brand new car to replace my old car. The prayer, instead of I want to get a new car for free, is I want to have my perfect transportation and have my finances fit together in an orderly fashion, and let go of the details and open up to the tone and the texture and the feeling of the situation. I was reminded of somebody who was in class with me 20 years ago, and they were constantly having problems with their car. With the car breaking down, not being able to afford to repair a car, kept on getting jalopies, and it was just an ongoing cycle. Got into the teaching, and another student in the class was getting a new car. And this was back in the early days when Kia was having their intro sale, and it was buy one, get one free.
I must have missed that one.
and the student showed up, and it's like, oh, well, there's this promotion going on. We've already got the deal all set up for you, so you get a second Kia. She says, okay, you can use it. Problem solved. And nobody in their right mind would say, I want to get a free car from the manufacturer because they've started a promotion. But being able to look a fact in the face and know something better opens us up to a world of possibilities that go beyond the way that we think that we'd be able to do it. So let's do some prayer on that. And actually, we're going to combine it with a little bit of meditation. Because as I mentioned before, meditation is listening to the infinite. And prayer is speaking to the infinite. So as we close our eyes and go within, we can become aware of where we are right now. As you feel yourself seated in your seat. And by the way, only do this if it's safe to close your eyes. Airline pilots should not close their eyes for an extended period while they're working. Or some other people, like sawmill employees, come to mind as well. The rest of us can close our eyes so that we can turn away from the specifics of the circumstance and the situation that's going on in front of us. Because there's more going on than is obvious. This situation is as we have understood and expected and experienced it. And it is possible for this situation and circumstance to continue along the way that it has been. And it's possible for it to change. Feel yourself anchored in your chair. Take a deep, full breath in. Let yourself be filled. Hold at the top. Sip in a little more air. Invite in something more. And then a deep, full breath out. Let it go. As good as that breath has been, as life-giving and supportive as it's been, let it go. Release it. It has come to pass. And feel yourself settle into that emptiness and that availability. And now another deep, full breath in. Let yourself be filled, and again, hold at the top. This may feel exactly like the previous breath, but it is different. We're different. We've changed, we've grown, we've aged, we've moved through space and time. And as good as that breath has been, let it go. Another deep, full breath out. And continue breathing at that comfortable pace, with the reminder on every inhale that the infinite is ready to fill us with a brand new idea. And on the exhale, we can surrender and let go of it. Let go of everything that we thought we knew up until now, so that we can be open to something even more wonderful, even more joyous, even more uplifting on that next inhale. Meditation is being in the quiet, simply breathing, allowing the thoughts to go away. When they show up, just let them pass. If they're important, they'll come back again. And we can spend a minute or 2 or 10 in the silence, just breathing, just being, just allowing ourselves to be quiet so the still small voice can speak. that suggestion of what's ours to do can be revealed. And continue in knowing that that infinite creative power that creates everything, that has created each of us, is creating this moment right here and right now, this next new experience, this next new unfolding, this grand revelation of the new ideas, the new experience, the new opportunities we have in life are being revealed to us, are being offered to us, are showing up right in front of us. That infinite creative power that creates everything is creating through and as and for us exactly that which is perfect to bring about that new experience, that new feeling and flavor of life. And it's happening continuously in ways that are subtle, in ways that are dramatic, and sometimes both. And there's nothing that stands in the way of this process. That infinite creative power creates everything. The thought that it can't create something new for us, the thought that there's something that's too big or too difficult or too challenging or too complicated is preposterous. It's an infinite creative power. All good is available everywhere. And that means it's available right here and right now for each of us in our own way. And I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for the good that's coming about. I'm grateful for the awareness of the process. I am grateful for the wonderful stories that each of us gets to tell about this good coming about. And so with gratitude for all of this good and more, I speak this word, this intentional word, this word of invitation, this word of opening. And I release it into that creative law that creates everything. And I know with full faith and conviction that it is now creating this. The good is underway now. And so I let it be. And so it is.
The Practical Prayer Podcast with Reverend Bill Marchiony and Carol Lawrence is a production of BeTheLight.com,
be-the-light.com,
where you can find more information about practical prayer for real results.
Our theme is by Music of Wisdom. You can learn about the spiritual community of New Thought Philadelphia with daily guided meditations,
Weekly celebrations of spirit,
and Reverend Bill's classes in practical spirituality
at newthoughtphilly.org.
That was a fun show.
It was.
I like that. That was fun on lots of different levels.
Well, there's still another part. We can do the meditation piece a little bit more. We kind of did the prayer,
Yeah,
which could go on and on too, by the way.
Yeah, and a lot of times lately, just the art of listening has come up.
Mm-hmm.
About being present to somebody else. Like what a gift it is to get together with somebody and then turn your phone off. It seems so simple, but there are people who just never think of that.
Never think of it. So we could do the art of listening one time.
Yeah.
Okay. Noted.
Yeah, there's a wonderful book by Mark Nepo called 7,000 Ways to Listen. It's based on the notion that there are 7,000 different languages. And so if there's 7,000 ways to speak, there's 7,000 ways to listen. It's also possible there are 8 billion ways to listen.
How about just one? Just stop talking and pay attention.
Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah.
Funny. So that is the Practical Prayer Podcast post show on New Thought Media Network. We're having, I was going to say way too much fun, but it's not possible to have too much fun. We just have fun getting together and doing this thing. We will be here every Monday until the Parliament, or we will probably not be here because I'm sure I'll be distracted by something else while the Parliament is going on. But, we'll think of something to do. And in the meantime, the meditation and prayer that we kind of did at the end of the podcast, that's very similar to the daily meditations that I do for New Thought Philly. And the info's at newthoughtphilly.org. And anybody is welcome to join us. You go get the Zoom login information at newthoughtphilly.org or in our Spiritual Adventures meetup, and join the Zoom. And we got people. Yeah, London and Los Angeles tend to be the farthest out. Sometimes they're both on. 8 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock in the evening Eastern time. And we've been to a bunch of them before. And it's the same sort of thing. It lasts 15 minutes, including the happy banter amongst the participants. And then we do a short meditation like that, anchored by a prayer.
And the good thing about it is you always just happen to say something that hits it right on the head, and everybody receives it differently, I'm sure. But you just always kind of, say something.
Thank you. Yeah, my gift is to come up with a metaphor for whatever somebody's talking about and do it in the moment.
Yeah, well, you do it.
It took a while to figure out that was one of my superpowers, but so twice a day, every day, once on the weekends. Carol, as always, thank you, and we will continue next time.
My pleasure.
See ya.